How's everybody doing? Today, I have a very important topic for you guys, and this one is for first-time home buyers. What happens when you are looking to buy a house and you don't have enough money for the purchase? Let's check it out. Welcome again to my channel. For those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Darlene Medranda. I'm a real estate salesperson working for Empire Home Realty in Long Island. Are you planning on buying a home, but you don't have enough money for the purchase? There is something called the seller concessions. Many realtors get asked this from the sellers and the buyers. What is a seller concessions? Can I get a seller's concession? What's the benefits for seller's concession for a seller? Can the seller deny a seller concession? What products are available that allow for seller's concessions? Whether you're selling your home or you are in the market to purchase a home, seller concessions is something that you should be aware of and have a good understanding of. What is a seller's concession? Seller's concession is a monetary contribution from the seller to a prospective home buyer towards the closing expenses and the prepaid items. There are positives and negatives to seller's concession for home sellers and the buyers. There are many mortgage products that allow for seller's concessions, many of which allows the buyer to purchase a home with little to no money down. And this is mainly because these products allow the seller concessions. The most known products are the FHA loan, the USDA loan, a conventional loan, and the VA loan. What's the FHA loan? Of Federal Housing Administration. This is one of the most common home loans available for home buyers. The buyer is allowed to receive up to 6% on seller's concession. And the second thing is that the buyer is allowed to make a low deposit of 3.5%. The USDA, or United States Department of Agriculture, this loan is almost the same as the FHA loan. The seller can contribute up to 6% for closing expenses and prepaid items. The difference between the FHA loan, the USDA loan, and the amount allowed on seller's concession is that if the bank appraiser can determine concessions over 6%, can negatively impact the price. Conventional loans. There are different types of conventional loans. There is one conventional loan for first-time home buyers, as well conventional loans to even help eliminate the mortgage insurance. A buyer who is putting down 5% on deposit on a conventional loan is able to receive a 3% on seller's concession. If a buyer is putting down between 10 to 25% on a conventional loan, they might be able to receive a 6% on seller's concession. If a buyer puts 25% or more as a deposit on a conventional loan, he is able to receive up to 9% on seller's concessions. VA loans. These are special loans for veterans. A buyer that falls in this category is able to receive up to 4% on seller's concessions. There are more additional percentage that they can receive. In order for them to find out, they need to talk to a top-rated mortgage lender in their community. By any chance, if you would like to have more information on all the percentage that you might be able to receive, please contact a mortgage lender. They will give you all the explanations that you might need depending on your circumstances. Do you really need a seller's concessions? Before thinking on asking a seller to contribute to the closing expenses and the prepaid items, ask yourself as a buyer if you really need the seller's concession. Most people don't like to deplete their bank account when they're purchasing a home. It's understood. However, if you don't need seller's concessions, don't ask for it. Why wouldn't you need seller's concession? The biggest reason why you shouldn't be asking for seller concessions is because you will be paying more than if you wouldn't ask for it. For example, if a seller agrees to contribute a 6% on a purchase of $200,000, the buyer will make the offer for $200,000. It will receive $12,000 in seller's concessions, and the seller will receive an offer for $188,000. The difference for a buyer in this example is that the buyer will be paying roughly between $70 and $80 every single month with the mortgage, plus all the interest that will be accumulated over 30 years is quite significant. There is no doubt about that seller's concession is very important in the real estate industry. This helps buyers to buy properties. But this doesn't mean that seller concessions is something that the buyer should be asking for. Bottom line, if you don't need it, don't ask for it. Asking for seller concessions is something that the buyer shouldn't be asking in a multiple offer situation. Not asking for the seller's concessions is a way for you to strengthen your offer. If the seller gets two different offers and one has seller concessions, the other one doesn't have seller concessions, it's more likely that the seller will choose the one with no seller concessions. In some cases, depending on the seller's situation, they might be able to contribute with a 6%. Why will a seller take one offer over the other one if a buyer is not asking for seller's concessions? In the mind of the seller, the buyer who's not asking for seller's concession is a buyer that has the money saved to purchase the home and is more attractive for any seller who wants to sell their property. Seller concessions will help the buyer to buy the property, but remember, this amount is not what the seller actually gonna get. Buyers need to keep in mind that asking for seller's concessions will affect the seller's bottom line. For example, if the house is listed for $100,000 and the buyer offers $100,000, the net on these transactions for the seller will be $100,000. In the same example, if the buyer offers $100,000 with a 6% seller's concessions, the seller will receive $94,000. It's common to see that the buyer needs seller's concessions. What they do, they offer more than the asking price. Whatever they need on seller's concession, they put it on top of the offer. This way helps to increase the seller's proceed. Continuing with the same example of the listing house on $100,000. If the buyer asks for seller's concessions in a $100,000, but he add the seller's concessions on top of this amount, the seller will receive what he asked for, and the buyer will have these seller concessions added to his loan. This sounds great for the seller, right? Wrong. A potential problem could arise from the home appraisal, and this can change the scenario completely. If the seller home was priced right, but the purchase price had to be raised to help increase the seller's net, it can actually push the sale price higher than a bank appraiser can sustain, challenging a low real estate appraisal. As mentioned before, seller's concessions are really important in the real estate industry. This helps buyers to buy properties, but there are certain circumstances that asking for seller's concessions makes sense for the buyer, but in other circumstances, they make no sense. So remember this, if you don't need seller's concessions, don't ask. Make sure you have enough money for your deposits. You can ask if the sellers can contribute to the seller concessions, but keep in mind, it's better for you to have enough money in the bank for the purchase of the property than expecting the seller to contribute for your closing expenses and prepaid items. If you like the information I just shared with you, please comment below, give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the little bell so you are notified every time I got a new video for you. Bye-bye.